Hi, I'm Emily and I'm going to show you how to decorate a buttercream cake with polka dots and stripes with a very easy technique using just a few tools. I'm starting by frosting my cakes and chilling them in the fridge for about an hour. I've given my cakes a crumb coat to trap any crumbs that come off the cake, and then a final coat of frosting. And I've made this colour by mixing Americolour Royal Blue with a drop of violet to take away the yellowy tone from the butter in my buttercream. I'm using my 4-minute buttercream frosting, and I've put the link in the description below. Okay, I'm going to start with some stripes. I'm cutting a sheet of parchment paper into strips of equal widths by folding it in half a few times and then trimming along the lines. Or you could draw guidelines with a ruler to be even more precise. I'm wrapping the strips around my chilled cake, and because the frosting is cold, it won't get damaged by the parchment paper or the pressure I'm applying to the cake. I'm wrapping the parchment strips around as tightly as I can and pinning them into the cake to hold them in place. I'm lining the pins up above each other so that if the little holes are visible, I can make this the back of the cake. I'm trimming the middle strip in half to make it thinner, and this leaves 2 exposed bands around the cake, which will be my stripes. I'm spreading buttercream over the exposed parts of the cake, spreading from side to side and smoothing it out so that it's the same thickness all the way around. And then I'm pouring my sprinkles onto a baking tray. This is sanding sugar or edible glitter, and you can press it into the frosting a handful at a time, or you can spread the glitter out on the tray by shaking the tray, and then roll the cake in it, so that the glitter sticks to all of the fresh frosting on the cake. The cake has to be on a cake board the same size as the cake for this, so that you can get to the glitter. Because the cake is chilled, it will hold its shape and you won't damage it. When all of the fresh frosting is covered with glitter, I'm pulling out the pins and peeling off the parchment, starting at the top of the cake and moving downwards, because when you pull the parchment off, glitter attached to the parchment will fall down, and you want the parchment strips to protect the frosting on the lower part of the cake for as long as possible, so that the glitter doesn't accidentally stick to it. It might be tricky to find the end of the strips, under the extra frosting and glitter, but just work your way around the cake and you'll be able to feel where there's parchment underneath the frosting and glitter, and you'll eventually find the end. As I peel the parchment off, I'm leaving these neat, pretty, glittery stripes behind. Now I'm wiping off any lingering glitter from my cake board with my offset spatula to tidy it up before I continue. If you're enjoying this tutorial, please click the thumbs up button. For polka dots, I'm cutting squares of parchment paper and then cutting out different sizes of circles. I'm using a round cookie cutter, but you could use a bottle cap, a bottle of gel food colour, whatever you have handy. Just try to cut the circles out as precisely as possible, because your frosting polka dots are going to fill this exact shape. You can press the parchment paper against the cake and spread frosting over the holes, and the frosting will hold the parchment paper in place so you don't have to use pins to attach it. It's best to spread the frosting from the outside of the cutout circle towards the middle, so that you don't push any frosting underneath the parchment paper. I'm trying to spread the frosting in the same thickness all over the circle so it's level. I'm spreading frosting onto all of the circles cut out of this piece of parchment paper, and then I'm pressing sprinkles against the fresh frosting so it sticks. I like to do this over a baking tray to catch any glitter that falls off the cake so I can use it again instead of wasting it. You can use sprinkles instead of this edible glitter, and I have a module on 10 ways to decorate with sprinkles in my online course, 10 cake decorating techniques, and you can sign up on my website. I've put the link in the description below. Now when I peel the parchment paper off, I'm leaving these neat circles behind and they're covered with pretty shimmery glitter. I'm doing this all the way around the cake, and if there's any frosting that sneaks under the parchment paper on the outside of my glittery circles, an offset spatula is useful for scraping that extra frosting off the cake or pushing it up against the side of the circle. To stack this cake, I'm using a 4-inch cake disc to mark out where the top tier is going to sit, and then using boba straws to support the weight of that cake. You can see the details by watching my tutorial how to stack a tier cake. I've chilled my top cake so I can lift it with my hands and move it onto the bottom cake without damaging it because the frosting is chilled and set. I love how neat these stripes and polka dots are. To cover the join between the two cakes, I'm going to pipe a buttercream border, using the same blue buttercream as I used for the frosting on the cakes, piping this little shell-type border with a Wilton 1M tip. I'm squeezing out the frosting and moving my piping bag back and then forward, letting each section overlap the section before, and working my way around the cake. A turntable is really helpful for this. I'm doing the same around the bottom, starting at the side of the cake so that the join of the beginning and the end of the border is at the most subtle place. And there it is! A polka-dotted and striped cake, decorated with just a few basic tools. Subscribe to my channel, British Girl Bakes, for new cake decorating tutorials every week.